Yeah, sure. Thanks, Pete. Happy to get last week behind us uh, and move forward to this challenge. I do want to just say it was pretty cool to have some of the band and the Spirit Squad back in the stadium, help kind of inching us towards that atmosphere that we love in Lane Stadium. We have a tremendous amount of things to work on in all three areas of the game. Huge challenge this week with Wake Forest. Can't say enough good things about the job Dave Clawson's done there. Quarterbacks throwing it all over the yard. They've got a great running game. They're averaging 40 points a game. Defensively, they've got, it seems like every single guy back. I know it's not all 11, but it's a bunch. They make very few mistakes, no penalties, no turnovers. They've won their last two ball games, and we'll have to have a great week of prep, preparing for their up-tempo style offensively, multiple formations, RPO game, all the stuff that you've come acquainted with Wake Forest offense, and then the multiple looks they throw at you on defense.
Mike Michael, we'll start with you. Yeah, Justin, when you kind of go over the film and look at what Khalil did and his night, were there any plays, one or two plays specifically that, stand out to you when you rewatch it? I mean, was, he's such a patient runner, the one where he bounced outside and kind of just waited for everything to kind of, come together. I mean, is that one, or what's something that impressed you about his night on Saturday?
Well, I think, I would say a couple things. One, there's still room for improvement. And I think he acknowledges that and takes that coaching, which is pretty cool. I also saw him helping his teammates on the sideline, helping them talk about what he was seeing when he was running the ball, which is another pretty cool attribute. The play that would stick out in my mind is 2nd and 9 on the second series of the second half. The first series we went 3 and out. Second series, I'm almost positive it was the second series of the second half. And the first play we gained 1 yard, and 2nd and 9, and we ran the stretch play to the left, and he kind of burst out of there, kept it over their play side, and for a big play, and I think we went on to score on that drive. So, that was a big momentum play in the game. You think about a couple of the momentum plays. Obviously, we had a bunch of turnovers defensively. I thought the squib kick after their penalty, pinning the ball down on the 10-yard line, and the defense getting a turnover and the offense turning around and kicking a field goal, I thought that was big. And then Keyshawn King's return on the sky kick all the way out to the 50-yard line, I thought those were kind of all undervalued plays when you look at the whole game together.
You mentioned the kicking game with Keyshawn. Are you going to have, when you have Khalil and you put on film that he can return it, have to prepare for what team's trying to not kick to him? Does that change kind of how you approach things and what you tell your guys? Because, obviously now I think opposing teams probably going to try to avoid Khalil a little bit.
Certainly. We have to be prepared for it. I think James Shebes is one of the best in the business in terms of continuing to cover those details in terms of whether you're getting cross-field kicks or squibs or whatever it is when they're trying to keep the ball out of a returner's hands and trying to find ways to hurt the opposing team when they try those things. Not just saying, oh, they sky kicked it, there's nothing we can do about it. Trying to find a way to dissuade that kick as well. So it was really cool, I thought, to see our guys pull it off in that first return when they cross-field sky kicked it and Keyshawn took it back to midfield.
David Teal.
Justin, this is the most run-heavy offense that you have had as a coach, head coach, or assistant in more than a decade, just by percentage of time that you're running the football. As you pondered this season during the off-season, is this what you envisioned, or is it just something that has evolved over the course of the 4 games?
No, I don't know that we set out to I guess I would just backtrack on that. I don't know that we saw that it would look like that. No. I think, no spring practice and, a discombobulated fall camp probably even added to our uncertainty of what it was going to look like, in terms of running the ball or throwing the ball. Just trying to create some depth was our biggest concern so that we could make it from week to week, So it was almost like what it was going to look like took a little bit of back seat to how can we pull this off if we're down people? How can we move people around or create some artificial depth so that we can still participate in games if we're down people? So I did not know that it was going to be what it has been through the first couple games, and it may change as the season goes on. But certainly not something that I knew was going to happen, no.
And when you recruit offensive linemen, do you have a template in terms of size? I mean, not by a lot, but right now you have the heaviest and tallest offensive line in the conference.
I don't know that they have to fit a certain there certainly is a point when a guy's just not big enough to play at this level. But I think it's more about their mentality, their work ethic. I think Vance does a great job of identifying guys that have talent but that are our kind of guys. Some of those guys have been really heavily recruited, and some of them have been really lightly recruited. But I think regardless of their situation in recruiting, whether they could go anywhere in the country or just looking for a place, I think those guys are attracted to Coach Weiss in that room and, how it's taught, how they're developed, the mentality that they have. I think that's the biggest piece. Certainly there is a level of height, weight, speed, flexibility, but we didn't set out to have the biggest or the tallest. But I think it's, what we spend a little more time on probably is the mentality and the fit for what we're trying to do.
Andy?
Yeah, Justin, just going off that offensive line question, you have been building up for this year for a while with these linemen. What has clicked with that group this year, perhaps other than just experience?
Well, I would say that's probably the first thing, not to undervalue experience and having been there and done that. I think Brock has brought a level of confidence and leadership and toughness to that group. Not that they didn't have it beforehand, but I think he certainly brings that on a daily basis. And then we have some talented guys. I mean, we just have some guys that aren't just big, but are big athletes that have some talent in there that have a chance to be pretty productive. And we have. I don't know what the number of games played and all that kind of stuff is, but it's probably the most amount of guys that I've ever had that have played, that have played meaningful snaps, in games that that deserve to play and deserve those opportunities.
And switching directions, what happened with Trey the other night, and do you expect him to be ready for Saturday's game?
Yeah, I expect him to be fine. Just got a little banged up.
Mike Barber?
Yeah, Justin, understanding that it's never completely behind you and things can change on a dime this season, but did it feel Saturday night like you guys maybe turned a corner a little bit in terms of putting some of the mess behind you and being able to play football the way you're capable of?
I don't know. I'm hesitant to say anything. It's like, you see guys make comments, and the next thing you know, it bites them in the tail, So I don't know. I know we're doing everything in our power to adhere by the guidelines and do our best to control what we can in this situation. It was nice to have – we were still down some guys, but it was nice to have our staff there and, That's probably the most normal week we've had thus far.
Is it then maybe a little extra rewarding that you have your most normal week, you have a pretty good opponent, and you play so convincingly and so well?
Well, I mean, I don't feel like we played all that well, to be honest with you. Watching the film, there's just a lot that we need to do. Yeah, I'm happy with the outcome, but the outcome shouldn't jade our evaluation of what actually occurred. I mean, we still have far too many mistakes being made out there. I think, a little bit of that is due to guys haven't played together, and, there's a little bit of that we've missed out on, as has everybody else. Again, don't get me wrong. I know we're no different than most people, but I think it's pretty clear when we watch the film as coaches that there's a lot of work to be done.
And would you evaluate for me the defensive backfield, the secondary, maybe in part of what you're saying there?
Well, I mean, I feel good when we get all our guys in there. It's just been a little bit of shuffling the deck. I'd like to get a little bit of consistency. Hopefully we will, in terms of guys playing together and playing in one spot, not moving around all over the place. Hopefully that's on the horizon for us.
Norm? Hey, man, piggybacking a little bit off of Teal's question, granted, you have run the ball more than twice as much as you've thrown it, but you're fourth in the conference in yards per attempt, and despite all the depth issues you've had at receiver and the fact that you're not throwing the ball that much, are you pleased with what you've gotten out of the passing game? Though I know you're not completing, your completion percentage is down. That probably has to do with juggling quarterbacks a little bit. Or are there things that you would like to do to spark that a bit?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I was pleased last week. I don't remember. I don't know what our number. I think it was 11-15 maybe. That's pretty efficient. I mean, that's not a lot of opportunities, but that's a pretty efficient day. So I think it's going to be a week-to-week thing based on what we're seeing and how we're able to get our guys the ball and what our matchups are and so on and so forth. I do know that if you can run the ball, it's a lot easier to throw it. But, sometimes there have been a couple times so far this year where we've been ahead and there hasn't been a lot of reason to throw the football. That's kind of a byproduct of the game. And, part of the offense's job is not to be concerned with statistics, but be concerned with winning the football game. And that's the same on defense as well. So if that means taking the air out of the ball and running it to get the game over with, then so be it. So I think we can continue to explore options and ways to get the ball to the guys on the outside when we need to. Last week I thought we were pretty efficient in what we tried to get accomplished, and we'll see how it goes this week.
Though you haven't had, it's been pretty well documented, you've had some issues with depth in terms of with injuries and the virus and stuff like that at receiver. Though you haven't seen the big explosive passing game yet, have you seen some guys get better at the receiver spots, blocking downfield and doing some things like that, or can they improve in that area? Are you not as pleased in that area?
No, I think they're continuing to get better. Caleb Smith is the first one that comes to mind that is contributing in ways that aren't showing up in the box score. We had a 3rd down and 3 or 3rd and 2 maybe perimeter screen that he made a guy miss and got a first down on. Is playing really well on special teams, is blocking downfield, and those things are going to come. I mean, sometimes the game goes a certain direction, and some of that stuff's beyond your control. But I've been pleased with the group. We're still trying to bring a couple new guys along to help them. Hopefully we'll get a guy or two back. Elijah Bowick's back practicing. I hope we'll continue to get a little bit healthier in that room and keep bringing some guys along.
Andrew McClung.
Hey, Coach. So this week, Wake Forest, I mean, they look like a pretty solid team. I know a lot of people were kind of questioning them, but then they had this performance this week against UVA. What have you seen from a team that lost their quarterback that was considered by many a Heisman candidate, and now they're going with a guy like Sam Hartman?
Yeah, well, he can really throw the ball. I mean, and, you know, Coach Clausen's going to find ways to be productive on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, he's been doing it for so long. He's just really, really good at it. And, you know, between their scheme and their personnel, they provide tons of issues, being able to run the ball and throw the ball down the field. And I've been really impressed with the Hartman kid. I mean, he's taking care of the football. He gets on the move and makes plays with his arm. He can push the ball down the field. I mean, they've got the ball on the -1 yard line, and they're taking shots. I mean, I feel like just watching the film, Dave hasn't told me this, but he's got complete confidence in Sam Hartman to go operate whatever he calls and execute it at a pretty high level.
Eric Johnson.
Hey, Coach, along those same lines, their defensive line at Wake really stands out, anchored by Boogie Basham there. Just your thoughts on going into the matchup and with your rushing attack going against that stout defensive line.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say enough about Basham. I mean, he's just all over the place. He caused at least one fumble I can remember in the game last year. He chases the ball. Obviously, he's a big, strong player. You know, they do a good job with him, you know, in terms of what they're asking him to do. He loves to rush the passer, plays very good against the run. And then, you know, they've created a little bit more movement up front than maybe in the past. That's caused some people some problems in the run game. They, you know, when you watch the film and you start to see a team on either side of the ball that clearly has answers, you know that they're well coached and they're being put in good situations, and Wake is certainly that. I mean, they've got pressures, they've got movement, they've got calls in base defense that can give you problems. If you know, it's hard to have a perfect call against everything that they've got going on right now.
Travis.
Hey, Coach, the other night, both times after BC scored, you guys came right back down to the field and punched it in. Did that demonstrate to you a level of maturity with your team in the face of some adversity, and is that something that kind of evolves?
Well, I know it's something we talk about a lot. You know, life's not perfect and football's not perfect, and you know, no matter who you're playing or what game you're in, there's going to be some ups and downs. You know, there's going to be bad things happen, and you've got to be able to respond. And we try to articulate that to our kids during practice. If one side of the ball is getting the better of the other side, like being able to focus and kind of bear down and try and flip the momentum. I do believe momentum is real, and you know, getting it back is not just a boost for you, but can sometimes be deflating to the other team when you recapture some momentum. And I was proud of the way we answered when Boston College seemed to gain a little bit of momentum.
Gene Long.
Yeah, Justin, from before the season started and, you know, games moved around, postponed, whatever, and then, you know, you're playing games with dozens of players unavailable, and here you are, a game behind Clemson. I mean, they're coming to your building a lot later this season, but where does kind of all this, what you've accomplished, stacked up so far in terms of some of the other more improbable circumstances you've been part of?
I don't know, man. We're so deep in the weeds right now. I don't know what day it is or where we're going or what we're doing. I know we've got Wake Forest, and you know, again, I'm sure, you know, we're just trying to take it one step at a time here. And I have been proud of the way our kids have handled some tough things that we've been through. You know, but those things aren't over. You know, like this isn't time for us to sit back and relax and slap each other on the back. This is time for us to continue to focus, knowing that there's a long road ahead of us and there'll be a lot of twists and turns in the road, and we've got to do our best to keep it in between the ditches and keep it rolling in the right direction.
Corey.
Hey, Coach, it really seems like on Saturday, Hendon, escaped a couple sacks in the pocket, really lowered his shoulder on some guys, carried some defenders, some extra yards. It maybe didn't do as much as that last year. Is that something you've sort of taken notice of him this year, kind of adding some strength to do that?
Oh, I mean, I don't know. I don't want him taking obviously big hits. He is a weapon running and throwing the football. He did do a good job escaping out, showed some strength, and the guy had a hold of him a time or two, and then punched the ball in the end zone down the right side there when the unblocked hat showed up there on the 1 yard line and found a way to get it in. So I'm proud of that. He is a big, strong kid, and has that ability. I don't want him getting too carried away with it.
Jermaine?
Coach, one of your former players tonight, Andy Dalton, taking the reins for the Dallas Cowboys. Have you had a chance to maybe talk to him since, taking over starting quarterback with Dak's injury, and just your thoughts about him getting this opportunity with the Cowboys?
Oh, I've texted back and forth with him. I think, or I know he came in last week and led them down the field, and they won the ball game, and just happy for him. I mean, you talk about a first-class guy in every manner, from his family, his mom and dad, to his wife and his kids. And, for him to be a starting quarterback in the league for so long and go back home, so to speak, to Texas and fill that role with no ego and no issues and support Dak. And then I have read some of his comments this week, still supporting Dak. And just, you talk about a guy that handles every situation the right way. That's Andy Dalton. And just the definition of class in every manner, and really rooting for him to have success. And obviously he's going to play, and I know this for a fact. He hates the circumstances with which he's getting to play. He wants Dak to be healthy, and that's exactly what he told me. But those aren't the circumstances, so now he's got a job to do, and I expect he'll go about it to the best of his ability.
Hey, Kurz.
Hey, Coach, you've had to play a lot of young guys probably before they were ready because you didn't have anybody else. That's quite different than kind of being eased into blowouts just to get some experience and stuff. How much does that expedite maybe a player's development?
Well, it can go one of two ways. I think it can hinder his development as well. I mean, you can get out there as a young player in way over your head, and it can break your sword, so to speak. I have not seen that happen, but I have been concerned about that through the situations that we've found ourselves in. You want kids to want to play and to have a little bit of success and to ease their way into playing in a position that they're ready for, in a situation that they're prepared for. And that has not always been the case this season due to a variety of circumstances. And I've told those kids, I'm sorry. I hate it, but we have no other choice. And hopefully they're tougher because of it, and hopefully they learn from it and continue to develop. But I would be less than honest if I didn't say it's crossed my mind that and I've seen it happen to more than one player, not this year, but in my coaching career, where it was way too much, way too soon, and it really hurt them from a developmental standpoint.
How much does that kind of situation highlight the need for the veteran leaders on your defense to really step up and kind of, really lead a lot more and be supportive and all that kind of stuff?
Well, there's not much they can do about some of those situations. You got a guy playing out of position that hasn't practiced all week, but he's the only one you got left. There's not much leading to do to that. Just hope he can hold on. So I have been proud of our guys that have shown great leadership. We have some older guys on our entire team, but on the defensive side of the ball that have played quite a bit. And I think those guys have done a great job helping those young players out.
Thank you.
Mike Nisley. Kind of piggyback off of that, with Robert Wooten, it seemed that he's earned some playing time. I think he got about 30 snaps and played early in the game for the first time on defense. how's he been able to kind of carve out a bigger role? What have you seen from him as a true freshman there?
Well, we went into the game without Jalen. I think he'll be back. I'm talking about Griffin. He should be fine, which kind of elevated Wooten into having a chance to play a little bit more. I really like him. I think he's got a bright future. Robert's just showing a little more maturity than your typical freshman, not just physical maturity, but emotional and mental maturity. And he, I think, as the season goes along, he's going to have opportunities to continue to play and contribute to this team. He's playing on special teams, and I would anticipate that he'll continue to get some opportunities on defense.
And then with Justice Reed, he gets that rough in the passer play penalty. Was that something on him, or was that close? I mean, it didn't look like he did anything wrong there. I mean, what did you see when you kind of watched that play?
Well, they're all close, to be honest with you, anymore. I mean, in my opinion, the really egregious roughing the passer penalties have basically been eliminated. You see one every now and again, but they're almost all of them that get called are bang bang. I don't think it helped that he was up high. You just got to understand that, and rightfully so. This is certainly not a critique, but the ACC makes no bones about it. They're going to protect the quarterback, which I think is great, particularly when he's standing there in the pocket and he's got his eyes downfield. So we have to be cognizant of that. There's a couple others that were probably just as close that are hard. It's kind of a bang bang play, but we got to be smart. We've got to understand that that if at all possible, if there's any way you can avoid it, you have to avoid it.
Thanks. A couple more, Andy.
And Justin, Richard Ashby has 24 tackles this year, which maybe not quite what we're accustomed to seeing with tackle totals. How do you think he's played this year, and does he have many different responsibilities in what you're doing defensively this year than maybe in past years?
Oh, I mean, I think his fits are maybe a little bit different than they have been in terms of how we're fitting some of the run game stuff, but he's been fantastic. I mean, he gets everybody lined up, directs all sort of traffic over there, and I would anticipate that as everybody around him continues to get comfortable, and maybe does their job on a little more consistent basis, Rayshard will, should, statistically improve as the season goes along.
David Teal.
Justin, it's still a couple weeks away, but have you and your staff pondered how you will adjust when Election Day is a mandatory day off?
Yeah, I mean, before they passed that rule, we had it all worked out to we've already done the registration for our players. We had it all worked out to practice and still transport them to vote. So now that it's an off day, I would imagine we'll look at the schedule. We haven't finalized this, but what we're looking at is going on Monday evening. And then taking Tuesday off, and then back on schedule on Wednesday.
All right, thank you, everybody. We'll have student athletes.